The morning rush at Evergreen Diner had finally settled, and Sophie Carter wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that day. The tiny diner on the outskirts of Chicago wasn't fancy, but for the past 6 years, it had been her lifeline. At 27, Sophie knew every booth by heart and could predict exactly when Mr. Lawson would stroll in for his usual black coffee and toast. "Same old Tuesday," she muttered under her breath, adjusting her slightly worn-out name tag. Then, at 10:15 a.m., the doorbell chimed. Sophie glanced up, expecting to see another regular. Instead, her heart stopped. Walking in, dressed in a simple dark sweater and jeans, was a man whose face had been plastered across business magazines and news headlines. Julian Blackwood, billionaire, CEO of Blackwood Enterprises. And, if the latest media frenzy was true, a man caught in the middle of a major scandal. The diner wasn't full, but Sophie noticed the few customers present were already whispering, some reaching for their phones. Julian, looking exhausted, slipped into a corner booth, his shoulders slightly hunched, as if trying to disappear. Sophie turned to her coworker, Lisa, who stood frozen in shock. "I got this one," Sophie said, grabbing a menu and heading toward him. She didn't treat him like a billionaire or a scandal. She treated him like a person. "Welcome to Evergreen. Would you like a minute with the menu?" she asked warmly. Julian looked up, and for the first time that morning, relief crossed his face. "Just coffee. Black. And, if possible, somewhere quiet to work for an hour." Sophie nodded. "Got it. And don't worry, I'll make sure no one bothers you." She meant it. For the next hour, Sophie stayed true to her word. She turned away two groups of people who tried to approach his table for selfies. She even stood up to her manager, Todd, when he tried to post about Julian's visit on the diner's social media. "Do you know how much attention this could bring us?" Todd hissed, his eyes gleaming with greed. Sophie folded her arms. "And, do you know how much business we could lose if we become known as a place that harasses its customers?" The argument caught Julian's attention. He had been typing away on his laptop, but now he was watching the exchange with keen interest. Todd's face darkened. "You don't make those decisions, Sophie. Get your things and leave. You're done here." Sophie's stomach dropped. 6 years. Never late. Never a complaint. And now this. She fought back the lump in her throat and untied her apron. "At least let me finish my shift."
"No. Out.
Now." Sophie turned toward the break room to grab her bag, but before she could take another step, a chair scraped against the floor. Julian stood up. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low but firm. "Is there a problem here?" Todd instantly changed his tone. "Oh, no problem at all, Mr. Blackwood. Just a little staff adjustment." Julian's expression was unreadable. "I saw what happened," he said evenly. "This young woman was doing her job with integrity. And you fired her for it." The diner had gone dead silent. Todd stammered, trying to recover, but Julian had already turned to Sophie. "What's your name?" "Sophie Carter," she said, still stunned. Julian took out his phone and started typing. Then he looked up and said something that made her knees go weak. "Would you be interested in a job?" Sophie blinked. Excuse me? I need someone with your kind of integrity on my executive team. If you're interested, consider yourself hired." He turned his phone screen toward her, an email already sent to his HR department. Sophie felt like she was in a dream. "Are you serious?" "Completely," Julian said. "Starting salary, $100,000. Full benefits." Todd's face drained of color. Julian turned back to him with a cold smile. "And as for this place? I'll be sure to let my followers know how you treat your employees." Todd opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The next morning, Sophie sat in her tiny apartment, staring at the formal job offer email in disbelief. Her phone had been buzzing nonstop. Julian's tweet about the incident had gone viral. "Just witnessed true integrity at a small Chicago diner. A worker stood up for a customer's privacy at the cost of her job. Proud to say she's joining the Blackwood Enterprises family tomorrow. The world needs more people like her." Sophie's hands shook as she signed the digital contract. 6 years of living paycheck to paycheck, of counting every penny, of wondering if she'd ever catch a break. And all of it changed in a single morning because she chose to do the right thing. Her phone buzzed again. A text. "Carl will pick you up at 8 a.m. Looking forward to working with you. JB." Tears of joy streamed down Sophie's face. She thought about her mother, who had worked 2 jobs to raise her, always saying, "Integrity will take you further than any shortcut." "Mom, you were right," Sophie whispered. 1 week later, Sophie stood in her new office at Blackwood Enterprises. Her workspace was bigger than her entire apartment. On her desk sat a handwritten note. "Thank you for reminding me that good people still exist. Welcome to the team. Julian." Sophie traced the elegant paper, thinking about how just days ago she had been wiping down diner tables. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mom. "I always knew you were meant for greatness. Your father would be so proud." Sophie smiled, thinking about her dad, who had always told her that character was what you did when no one was watching. But someone had been watching, and it had changed everything. As she typed her first tweet from her new verified account, she thought about all the hardworking people still waiting tables and serving coffee, dreaming of their own break. To every service worker waiting for their moment, keep your integrity. Keep your faith. Sometimes, life's biggest blessings come disguised as ordinary moments. Your time will come. #Integrity matters. Within hours, it went viral. And Sophie? She had never been prouder. Billionaire's surprise job offer after this waitress took a stand for him. Billionaire's surprise job offer after this waitress took a stand. She got fired protecting a stranger. Then he offered her $95,000 on the spot. A struggling waitress stands up for what's right, costing her job at a local cafe. But what happens next changes her life forever. This inspiring story shows how one act of integrity can lead to unimaginable opportunities. Watch how Jessica's decision to protect a customer's privacy transforms her future.